Welcome back, everybody. RC here for Photography Tips and Tricks, your show for gear, tips, inspiration, anything you need to get your photography over to the next level. Now, we want to talk to you about this being a viewer-supported show, right? So we're sponsored by KelbyOne, right? KelbyOne.com. If you haven't seen it, we've merged forces, right? So Nap and Kelby Training have been put together for KelbyOne. But this is something that we wanted to start as a conversation with you guys. And it's something that we've done on every show. If you're just tuning in now, make sure that you leave us comments. But what we do is we use this as a source to be able to answer your questions. To that end, on our Kelby TV site, where our shows were normally hosted, we had Marshall Holmes come out and say, hey, thanks for the great info and insights. I'd like to see some discussion around long exposure photography using ND filters. So I figured that was a good thing for us to be able to talk about, Marshall. This will be your episode. Long exposure, ND filters, right? Let's just start from the very, very beginning. What does that mean? Well, when you're working with your camera, right, any camera that you're working with has shutter and aperture, right? So the shutter is how long it stays open and it clicks, right? Aperture is basically the size of the hole that sits in the camera. Now, obviously, this is an oversimplification. Go to KelbyOne if you want to be able to see more. But the general idea here is that the bigger the hole, the more light that you can let in. Now, when you go out and you start taking pictures of stuff, the combination of shutter speed and aperture combine to be able to give you something, right? They give you an exposure. Now, when you're dealing with this in long exposure, what are we talking about the concept of long exposure? Well, if I were to take this camera out, and let's say that I would go to f16 and I would go outside and I would take a picture, the shutter speed that would be related for an outside shot would be relatively high, probably over 100th of a second, 125th of a second, really, really high. Now, ideally, when we want to be able to create anything that's soft and flowing and smooth, we want to really slow down that shutter speed. What we're looking for is 50th of a second, 40th of a second. That kind of slow movement will take things that are kind of moving around and just kind of streak them across. But you can't really do that in bright sunlight. Let me show you what this looks like here. I went outside and I took, let's get and just close these things out here. I went outside and I took some pictures of a river, right? This is the picture of the river. It's not pretty, I know, right? But I'll take a look over here. I'm gonna grab this picture and I'm gonna open it up in Photoshop so that you can kind of see. I went outside, I took a shot, I tried to do the best I could with it, but it really is quite uninteresting when you're looking at it. Now, let's see, we're at f22. I was at 100th of a second, right? We'll take a look at this over here, at ISO 100. So I'm outside. It's 100th of a second still at f22. That's the highest amount of f-stop that you can have. So what does that mean? That means that everything is going to be sharp from here to here. So let's just get in, just up the exposure here just a little bit so you can see. So from here to here, sharp all the way through. There is depth of field, it's forget about it, right? There's no blurry sections here at f22. But even still, moving this at the lowest ISO to try to get this to slow down, it still gave me 100th of a second. What does that do to the water? Ugh, right? That is not what you're looking for. So you now automatically, you're in a situation where you're going, that doesn't look nice. That doesn't look good. Ideally, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to take this and make it even slower still. But what do you do when you're at the lowest ISO, at the smallest aperture, and still that number's way too high for you? Well, you put on sunglasses, right? And that's in essence what these things are. They're ND filters, and these ND filters offer you an opportunity to be able to take sunglasses and put sunglasses on top of your camera. Now, they come in stops. Generally, when you'll see an ND filter, you'll see that it says it's going to cut down about a stop or 2 stops or 3 stops. Sometimes you'll even see, like this one here, right? This is a genus filter, and what this does is going to be really hard for you to see, but as I turn this, you see how you could see the back of my hand right here? See that? Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this down and turn it. Can you see the back of my hand? No. Oh, can you see my finger wiggling? No. Again, turn this again. bring it at the widest. Now you can see the finger. So what this does is it says I can tint a specific amount, right? Not so much, a lot. So when you screw this on to the front of your camera, and now keep in mind that you need to have a specific size for this. So like in this case, this is a 77. This is probably a 67, or no, this is a 77. So look, screw it on. Now, what you've invariably done is you've placed sunglasses on your camera, right? You tilt this open, you can see more. You tilt this down, you can close it down and get it darker. By getting it darker as it's coming in, now the camera goes, whoa, this is a really dark scene, and I need to be able to expose longer and longer. So this sucks, but if you're outside and you want something else, you can go ahead and go over here. I'll show you. We took an ND filter and we put an ND filter in this one section. Go here to my smooth river. So same setting. Now, take a look. 100th of a second. Or 100 ISO, half a second. I was even able to experiment a little bit with a wider aperture. Now I'm shooting at f5, right? So I have the ability, I probably would have wanted this even still to be smoother, right? But it's a very big difference from what we had before. So imagine instead of shooting at f5, if I had shot at f11 or f22, then you could really move that out and really drag that out. And you're beginning to see a lot of that photography over here. Let's see, let's take a look at 500px real quick, right? So you see pictures like this, right? In a picture like this, you'll see something, right? So this is Sunset by the Deer Park by Martin Sarakov. Great shot. And what they've done is they've used long exposure, really long exposure, to be able to drag out that water. And by dragging out that water, it kind of creates this softness to it, right? Let's take a look at another shot here. Timeless Wonders on 500px, right, by Harry Melos. Same thing. Rocks aren't moving, right? Rocks aren't moving, sand isn't moving, but look at the water here, right? And you're beginning to see this a lot. Like right now, this is like the new thing. Everybody's going out and shooting with an ND to be able to drag that out, because what it does is it offers you a way to be able to show motion in things that are normally static, like skies. See right here? So this is Untitled by Gelasio Pablo III. There's a little bit of motion here. This is nice and smooth. For me, I probably would have merged another one of these where this was even slower still, right? There's another one. Look at how soft this seems here at the top. This is Cloud Seeding by OxyZ, right? Beautiful. Love what they did here, right? This kind of softness is very different from ugh, right? Not good, properly done. So that's what you're looking for when you're looking for ND filters. But there's more you can do with this. You can even experiment with this with portraiture. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come right back.
When it comes to being a photographer, there are no shortage of online networks waiting for you to share your images, interact with others, and potentially grow your business. From Google Plus to Facebook, Twitter to Instagram, 500px to Flickr, you have more options at your disposal now than ever before. Join me, Kelby Brown, as we discuss the ins and outs of various social networks, and I walk you through the process of creating your very own social media strategy.
Welcome back to Photography Tips and Tricks. RC here. Now, February is just around the corner, and if you haven't heard, it's also Creative Cloud Month. Every week in February, we're going to be delivering 5 new classes covering basic to advanced classes on all things Creative Cloud. Now, these class schedules are going to be available at kelbyone.com/cc month, so make sure that you tune in there. Now, let's get back to this, what we're talking about here. We were talking a little bit about, landscape photography and how to be able to use ND filters for that, but you can also use them in portrait. So imagine this scenario. You're outside, you're in the middle of the day, right? And you're trying to create a nice portrait. You can probably control the light. If you look here, this was done on purpose, right? If you look at these rocks, the rocks generally are underexposed. Everything is relatively dark. What I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to show you in the middle of the day, I can get a really, really dark scene by lowering my ISO, right? This is within the range of flash, right? So this is 100th of a second. So if I wanted to fill in with a flash, I'm well under the sync speed, but I'm at f/22. That means that if I were to make a portrait of a person standing right here, that's going to be a little annoying because you're going to be able to see the person as well as the background. And that doesn't look really, really good. What if I wanted to be able to shoot outside in the middle of the day, really, really dark, and have a person there? Well, to do that, what you can do is you can employ these things, right? So you can put an ND filter on a camera, and when you do that, that offers you the ability to be able to shoot at a much wider aperture. So you can shoot at f4, at f2.8, depending on which one you're using, 3-stop, 5-stop, 7-stop. And by doing that, you create a really dark environment with a nice shallow depth of field. Now take that and combine that with a light, and you can get some beautiful portraiture. Probably one of my favorite artists that's out there doing that kind of stuff is Joey L. and Joey Lawrence. If you go to joeyl.com, he does some beautiful work here. And I'm going to show you specifically where to find it. I want you to go to the personal section, and under the personal section, I want you to go to Holy Men. Under the Holy Men section inside of here, you'll see a series of different portraits, but take a look at this one right here. You could tell there's something going on there, right? You could tell that this is extremely out of focus in this one area here, and still beautiful colors and nicely lit. So that kind of technique, you can see some of that here. Take a look. You can tell middle of the day, this is way out of focus. So you can tell he's using a shallow depth of field, but it's also lit, and it looks like it's the middle of the day. So there's some beautiful work that's done with this kind of stuff when it's done properly. Now, the website that I want you to take a look at, since we're talking about Joey L, is I want you to go over here to this website, learnfromjoeyl.com. Now, Joey's somebody that's going to be working with us here very, very soon. You're going to see it. But if you want to get some digestible nuggets of information on lighting and cinematic techniques, the website you can go to is learnfromjoeyl.com. Right? He's got tutorials and tons of information for you there. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to PeachBit from here. Let's go to peachbit.com/KelbyOne. Right? This is going to bring you a book deal. Right? The book deal we're going to be having here is going to be 40% off of this book, Creative 52, Weekly Projects to Invigorate Your Photography Portfolio. If you want to be able to save 40% off of this ebook, make sure you go to peachbit.com/KelbyOne. Now, contest time. This is going to be different for this year. What I want you to do is I want you to go to KelbyOne.com, right? So it looks like this, and just add /contest. That's going to bring you to the contest page. Inside of the contest page, I want you to select a show. Go ahead, click on a show. In this case, it's photography tips and tricks. Put in your name, put in your email, put in your website. Tell us, this is for the ND show, or this is episode, whatever it is that you want to do to tell me what episode number this is. Let us know, right? Put something that's there in here. So this is, I think, episode 49, if I'm not mistaken. So you could even just write episode 49. And then leave us a comment. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you don't want to see. Tell us what you like. I want to make sure that we're delivering whatever information we can to you guys. And one of you guys is going to win The Digital Print by Jeff Shewy. This is a great book for anybody who's looking into getting into digital printing at home. All of the trials and tribulations and all of the problems have been solved by Jeff Shewy, and it's all in one book. Thanks to PeachBit for that. So, lots of information, lots of questions answered, and hopefully a little bit of inspiration for you guys here on Photography Tips and Tricks. We'll see you guys next week.